Hello, crew members. This is Chelsea Bell, Gordon's Events and Marketing Director and one of the founders of Crewbox. And I'm here to chat a little bit with you about February's Crewbox theme, which is focused on Tuscan Sangiovese. This month, we're going to do a deep dive into Tuscan Sangiovese, which is one of the world's most renowned and also misunderstood grapes. Why this grape is so renowned is because of the fact that it really combines really beautiful high levels of tannin and acidity, which make it a great wine for food pairings and aging. And it has a really beautiful combination of fruit and more savory characteristics. But it's also a grape that is prone to many different mutations of the variety all over Italy, but especially Tuscany. Kind of more similar to Pinot Noir, and it can be a little bit more challenging to work with. The wine that most of you might have encountered Sangiovese through before is Chianti or Chianti Classico. But there are so many other iterations, such as Vino Nobile di Montepulciano, Brunello di Montepulciano, and Montefalco Rosso, Chianti, Morello di Scanzano, the wines from Camignano. There's so many. But overall, you'll find this grape planted mostly throughout Tuscany, and then you find it also in Umbria, and then also planted throughout Campania in the southern part of Italy as well, but mostly planted in Italy and in Tuscany, not really found outside of Italy. But what we're going to have fun with today is exploring 4 different iterations of Sangiovese from Tuscany. We'll explore 2 Chianti Classicos, a Vino Nobile di Montepulciano, kind of a declassified Sangiovese Rosso from Tuscany. Before we get into that, I wanted to kind of chat about some of the primary characteristics of Sangiovese. Overall, the fruit is usually focused more on tart cherry. That's usually always the primary fruit characteristic, which is very typical. And you get sometimes some red plum, strawberry, and fig. Some kind of secondary aromas and flavors that can come through are roasted pepper, tomato, leather, clay, brick, tobacco, smoke, and then a lot of kind of more savory herbs such as thyme, and sometimes too a potpourri, or sometimes I like to say that great Sangiovese, in terms of its rustic characteristics, can almost smell like when you're walking through the forest, the like underbrush that you find there. So something kind of unique. But as it ages, you'll often find more aromas towards those dried cherries, figs, and roses. So something to look forward to, as a lot of Sangiovese from Tuscany can have some great age-worthy characteristics. So we'll first start with the 2 Chiantis that we've selected. I'll chat about them in a second, but let's just chat about Chianti as a region briefly. Chianti is going to be right in between basically Florence and Siena. And you find that Chianti Classico, which we're actually focusing on today, is the subzone. It's the original region. So typically, if you see Classico in a region for Italy, such as like Valpolicella or Amarone, you can find that that's usually the original area for production. So Chianti Classico is the original area for production and makes usually some of the most age-worthy and interesting and complex Chiantis. And you have a couple different levels that you can find. You have your straight Chianti, which is going to be aged under a year. It's just young, kind of fresh, tart. You have Superiore, which you might find on the label, which is usually aged for about a year and bolder and not as much kind of tart acidity. And then you have your Reserva, which we'll get into when we get into our Volpaia, which should be fun. So that will be aged for around 2 years typically, and usually some of the top wines. And then at your top level, you have what's called Gran Selezione, which is aged for a minimum 2.5 years, and only can be within Chianti Classico. And those are some of the top wines that are produced. So we talked about the Chianti Classico kind of original area, but there's some different subzones outside that I'll just quickly highlight. Typically, a lot of these are, have aging requirements that are much less than Chianti Classico. So some famous ones would be Colle Senese, Montalbano, and then you have Rofina, which actually has a minimum year aging requirement, and then Colli Fiorentini. And then a couple other ones too are Montes Bertoli and Colli Aretini and Collini Pisane. So just some other kind of subregions to encounter. Some of those don't always, you don't always see them, as well, like dispersed throughout the United States, but some you can. So without further ado, we'll just get into the wines. We have our first wine, which is the 2018 Castagnoli Chianti Classico, which is once again within the Chianti Classico, which is a DOCG within Tuscany. This is one of my favorite producers. It is imported through Kermit Lynch, which, as you've known, if you've been a subscriber for a while, we work a lot with Kermit Lynch and has a lot of wonderful smaller family-run, especially Italian and French producers. This is one of the first estates in Chianti Classico to become fully organic, and it's surrounded by all of these hectares of like indigenous forests, and the land and the vines are just encompassed by all this amazing nature. This is a Sangiovese that's blended from a couple of the different crus or single vineyards in Castagnoli, and within like 11 hectares of vineyards that they have. And it's a really beautiful, kind of softer, bolder interpretation of Chianti Classico, but it still has these beautiful kind of riper and firmer tannins, and has really nice red fruit, but also some olive and herbal accents. So definitely something that you could age if you wanted to, for, a good 5 to maybe even 10 years, but still is drinking really well right now. And I had it as a suggested pairing with Ribollita. A quick note about pairing with Sangiovese is that there's so many different options, because it's a more medium bodied wine, it's not overpowering, and it has acidity. It can pair with just so much, especially goes really well with braised meat dishes, especially too anything that has kind of some savory herbal characteristics, or tomatoes, anything that has that bright acidity, but it can also go really well with a lot of vegetarian dishes as well. So for those vegetarians out there, this is a wine for you. We'll go into our second Chianti Classico, which is the Castello di Volpaia Chianti Classico Reserva. So as we talked about, Reserva is a wine that's been at least 24 months in barrel, which is going to give that wine some greater body and depth on the palate. Volpaia is a unique territory within Chianti Classico, and it's this is a wine that's been produced since 1967. It's sourced from vines within the estate's 45 hectares. And it is just a really beautiful wine that expresses this Tuscan sandstone soils and has really beautiful purity and precise precision with the fruit, more kind of strawberry, tobacco, vanilla, and forest earth within it. So something that I think is going to be quite enjoyable for you. Maybe you let this open a little bit longer, since it has like a little bit more aging. And I would also say too, that this could go for around 10 years or so. I had suggested it's a pairing, a wonderful recipe with white beans and herb tomato sauce with fresh sausages. I think would be delicious. As I mentioned too, anything herbal or tomato driven, always a perfect pairing. But next, let's go on to another area within Chianti, within Tuscany, which is a little bit south. This is the 2018 Dye Vino Nobile di Montepulciano, which is within the Vino Nobile di Montepulciano DOCG. This is one of my favorite areas for production of Sangiovese. These acclaimed vineyards surround the village of Montepulciano, which is a picturesque hill town that's about 25 miles southeast of Siena in southeastern Tuscany. And it's made up of these slopes that are kind of located between these two rivers. I think it's called Ocria and Chiana. This is an area too that's very interesting, because you do have a grape varietal called Montepulciano, which you typically find on the eastern side in Abruzzo. So this is not, once again, the grape Montepulciano, it's the village. And within the village of Montepulciano, they grow Sangiovese, which is locally known as Prunello Gentile. And to make Vino Nobile di Montepulciano, the grape has to be at least 70% of the final wine. Some of the other grapes that are permitted in Vino Nobile di Montepulciano can be white varietals such as Malvasia. Sometimes that can be added for some added beautiful aromatics. And then the red grapes that can be blended in are Canaiolo, which is a wonderful Tuscan blending varietal. You can also find it in some kind of old school Chianti producers. And then the little known Mamolo, which interestingly enough is also grown in Corsica. This is a wine that has an aging period, which is a minimum of 24 months for the DOCG. And then if you were to encounter a Reserva wine, it's about 36 months of aging requirements. And typically some of the old school producers, which is a lot of which we work with, will use the large Italian botti, which are larger oak vessels, which are going to not present as much oak as like a barrique, just because you have larger surface area. So it's mainly trying to give the wine more texture and structure as opposed to a lot of the intense oak characteristics like vanilla and toast, which can sometimes overwhelm the grape. So something exciting to taste for you. This is once again one of the oldest and most prized wines in Tuscany, and this specific wine is 90% Prunello Gentile, and then 10% Canaiolo Nera. And the soils here are more limestone and clay based, and you'll find here more of that kind of red fruit, but also with a little leather, plum, and some dark spices. So something that has a little more of a bitter almond finish and is quite delicious. I had recommended this with a Tuscan chicken pasta. Last but not least, gonna end with a funky one, which is the 2020 Ficco Montanino Volgare Toscano Rosso. This is what's called an IGT, stands for Indicazione Geografica Tipica. It's right below DOC on the kind of pyramid. And it's indicating that it's coming from Tuscany, though this is a producer who is owned by a wonderful woman named Maria Sole. This is her farm. Ficco Montanino roughly translates to Little Fig Mountain. And it's a property that her grandfather acquired in the 1960s as a place to produce olive oil and to breed horses. It's right in the southeast in a town called Chiusi, which is technically a part of Tuscany, but geographically and spiritually, it speaks to more of Umbria or Lazio, because their borders are only kilometers away. And she's only farming here on about 12 hectares. So not a lot to work with here. So really focused on quality over quantity. This wine, Bulgarelli, is named after her grandfather's prize stallion. And it's 100% Sangiovese, coming from more sandy clayed soils in 3 different parcels on the vineyard. This is a biodynamic farming, and it's fermented naturally, spending 6 months in a combination of cement and stainless steel. So it will be it's bold, but at the same time, it's mineral driven, super fresh. And I think it will be really exciting and something I enjoy more now, or within the next 5 years or so. I had paired this too with the Tuscan beef stew with some polenta, as polenta is always one of my favorite Italian sides. So I hope you guys enjoy these wines. They're so delicious and so much fun. And it's a great way for you to get to understand all of the wines of Italy a little bit more through exploring these really beautiful indigenous grapes. Sangiovese, once again, is one of the most widely planted grapes in Italy, but it's still kind of relatively unknown. And it's great to be able to compare it throughout some different kind of subregions within Tuscany. So I hope you all enjoy, and I hope you all stay warm this winter, and looking forward to seeing you all soon. Thank you so much, and enjoy the rest of your amazing day. Bye.